Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Rangers are unable to get the sweep. It is their first loss of the playoffs. It was bound to happen at some point, and they were 7-0. They do lose to the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina. They lose 4-3, and it was a late goal on the power play by former Ranger Brady Skjei that got Carolina that win. Skjei scores at 16:49 of the third period. Rangers, had a bad start. Really bad start defensively, and really picked it up. Rangers had a lot of offensive chances. Really, I think the most they've had within each game. As far as even strength was concerned, I thought this is the most chances that they had generated. And it's too bad because Ryan Lindgren, it was a bad sequence for him, for sure, where he is unable to handle a puck, it's in the air and he tries to bat it down. Then he basically loses his balance, falls down, and takes down on a trip Jordan Martinook, which leads to the situation where Carolina wins the game. And look, if you were to tell me the Rangers would be up 3-1 heading home for Game 5 before the series, I would take that every single time. So, look, they weren't going to stay perfect the whole time. These were close games. And it's tough because, look, whenever you have a chance to take someone out, you want to do it. But unfortunately, that did not happen here. A lot to discuss out of this game, for sure. As far as the lineup is concerned, for Carolina, they go back to Freddie Anderson, Kochetkov out, and I figured that would be the likely case. Anderson, who really, everything being equal, he, when healthy, is the Hurricane starter. And Anderson tonight was pretty good, made a lot of good saves for the Hurricanes. I would say the Lafreniere goal was probably one he'd like to have back. We'll talk a lot about Alexis Lafreniere. Just an unbelievably great night for him as he continues to really just become a great, great player in this league and for this team. But for the Rangers, sad news, and it doesn't come as that much of a surprise, unfortunately, is that Filip Chytil was out, and I just don't know if we're going to see him again. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that we do for many reasons, not only for the Rangers, but for his health. But apparently he felt fine yesterday, felt great yesterday, but woke up this morning and didn't feel so good. So, I don't know. There was one instance in Game 3 where he got up slowly, where it was a hit along the boards. I want to say it was the third period. And with maybe like 6-7 minutes left, I noticed I don't know if that had anything to do with it because all the quotes sounded great. I mean, he sounded energized and optimistic after the game, and apparently he was good to go yesterday, but that's the thing with concussions. And it was termed as an illness, but if we're to read between the lines, I definitely think that it's very much related to what he's been dealing with. So Filip Chytil is out. And so Johnny Brodzinski draws into the lineup, and I understand why, right? Because you would think, all right, they'd go back to Matt Rempe. They go to Brodzinski. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they're on the road. And look, clearly Peter Laviolette and the coaching staff do not fully trust Matt Rempe. That all said, I think Game 5, I definitely think it will not be Brodzinski, and therefore likely it'll be Matt Rempe. Now, I have some other more out-of-the-box thoughts as far as what you can do with that spot. This is assuming that Filip Chytil is out. For me, I definitely wouldn't have it be Brodzinski. Not that he was necessarily bad, but like, what did he really bring to the table? Not a whole hell of a lot. So I would prefer Rempe over Brodzinski. Another thought is this, like, I really would like to get Zach Jones into that lineup somehow. I really would. And I don't love 11 forward, 7 defensemen, but let's be honest. When Rempe is in there, you are kind of rolling 11 forwards, like just the way that the usage has been. So I don't think they'll do it. I think it'll likely be Rempe. But again, I'd like to get Zach Jones in there on some level. And another person who I think deserves a little bit of a shot, but probably won't, is Adam Edstrom. So for me, if it was between Edstrom or Brodzinski, I'd probably prefer Edstrom. But anyway, getting back to more important details, Rangers Hurricanes Game 4, going for the sweep. And look, Carolina, they got swept last year by the Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final. It's a good team, especially at home. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. And the start to the first period was just brutal. Let's go through the game, and as we kind of go through it, I'll talk about certain players because there were some really bad performances by some of the players you'd expect to not do well. In other cases, it was some of the top forwards either being kind of quiet or not really providing a whole lot on either end of the ice. But 151 in, it is a goal for Evgeny Kuznetsov. His third goal of the season unassisted. Now, for Igor Shesterkin, it was, not one of his better games. Not going to say he was bad. I think that there was a couple of goals that he would say he'd want to have back. And look, he's been a rock for this team. And what sucks, too, is that he had a long streak, right, dating back to the Pittsburgh series in the playoffs in 2022. And it's a playoff streak of not having allowed any more than 3 goals. And unfortunately, with that Brady Skjei power play goal, that streak comes to an end. So that's unfortunate for Igor, but knowing him, it'll make him more determined and, mentally stronger heading into next game. But it's a goal for Kuznetsov. And what happens here is Erik Gustafsson right now, got to say, the Gustafsson-Trouba pair was really bad. I guess I'll let this flow and not so much go into player evaluations. But Gustafsson gets it over to Goodrow and kind of puts Goodrow in a tough spot, but blame goes to both. So first to Gustafsson, but then Goodrow needs to find a way to keep that puck along the boards. Instead, he kind of quickly shuffles it to the middle of the ice. He was in a tough position, but you still got to avoid that. And so Carolina goes right back in the zone. Kuznetsov carries it in and takes a wrist shot, and it goes, blocker side by Shesterkin. And Jacob Trouba was the one that was there, kind of provided a little bit of a screen towards Igor. And for Trouba, a lot of the times he's kind of caught in no man's land where it's like, I wish he could have either stepped. And we know that he's one of the best things he does is, of course, he can be physical. He can provide the hits, but kind of was in a tough position. But all 3 of those players kind of caused this goal. And again, Igor probably would want it back. So Carolina takes that early 1-0 lead. And there were not many penalties called in this game. It almost seems like that was the plan going in. And I'm fine with that, really. I mean, I think the penalties, when there is more penalties, it does favor the Rangers. We've seen that for sure. But in this game, only 2 power plays for Carolina and 1 for the Rangers. So moving forward within the first period. And also I should mention, as far as the Brodzinski in, heat out, they went back to the Wenberg line with Cooley and Kakko, and then Brodzinski was with Goodrow and Vesey. So Carolina takes a 2-0 lead at 6:33. It's a goal by Stefan Nason, his 4th goal of the season from Teravainen and D'Angelo. And what happens here is the Rangers are unable to clear the puck. So it first was Panarin, who was pressured by Jacob Slavin. And so Panarin's unable to clear. The puck goes to Jacob Trouba, and he just gives it to Carolina. So both of them were stuck on the ice for a while. A lot of heavy ozone pressure by Carolina. And it's a shot by Teravainen that Igor is unable to corral. And Nason possibly coming off the bench. I think it might have been a line change for the Hurricanes partially. And he comes in and backhands it past Shesterkin on the rebound. So you got to get the puck out of the zone. For Artemi Panarin, not a good game for him at all. He couldn't get much going. I didn't love what he did defensively. To a lesser extent, Trocheck wasn't that good either. And again, this is just for this game. I'm not saying overall, just talking about this game. I didn't think Artemi Panarin was good. And Jacob Trouba was a disaster. Hey, at least I gave him credit in game 3. So it's not, I try to be as fair as I can. I thought that Trouba played a solid, and maybe more than solid game 3. This was back to Trouba just sucking. And so Carolina takes a 2-0 lead. But a quick response by the Rangers. At 8:06, Will Cooley scores his first playoff goal, assisted by Kakko and Gustafsson. So this was a play. And the shift before that, the Zibanejad line was buzzing, but couldn't score. But then a nice transition play, good pass by Kakko. Cooley goes in on a breakaway and scores past Anderson. Thought this line was really good, the Wenberg line. And it's too bad with Wenberg because there's his positives and negatives are very apparent, where I like his, he's slick with his skating ability and able to control the puck and keep the puck, and he's a decent enough distributor, but there's just no finishability or even just it's not even part of his thought process. And he did hit a post in this game, which was tough too. So with Wenberg, it's just the skill set is there. And look, he's a veteran in this league at this point, but just a thought there. But all that said, really like what this line provided. And overall, I think they've done a really nice job in the playoffs. So it's a third line that the puck seems to be in the opposing team zone more than the Rangers zone when this line is on. And the Rangers score there. It's a goal by Cooley to cut it to 2-1. Where do we go from here? So Rangers at this point, they're getting chances, to tie this game up. Things were kind of looking good, and a real tough goal to go against the Rangers. At 15:29, Sebastian Aho scores his third goal of the playoffs from Gensel and Burns. And what happens here is the puck kind of hops over Gustafson's stick behind the net onto the stick of Jake Gensel, who finds Aho for the easy goal. Now, Jacob Trouba, he was kind of, again, with him sometimes, where are you positionally? Now, look, a lot of the blame goes to the Gustafson because he's got to be able to somehow corral it, get a piece of it so it doesn't go straight to Gensel. So, a really tough game for this pair. And they're going to be more exposed on the road. So that's kind of the positive thing. Just the fact that they were on against the Aho line, not ideal at all. And when you can dictate the matchups, hopefully that doesn't happen. But, so Gensel to Aho, easy goal. Nothing that Igor could do on this one. And it makes it 3-1 Hurricanes. That's tough to have 3 goals in the first period like that. The hope for me was, hey, just be down by 1 goal after the first period. It doesn't happen. And then at 17:30, the Rangers get their 1 power play. It wasn't a good one. Stahl trips Zibanejad off of a faceoff, but they are unable to get it done. Not a whole, and the problem was Trocheck lost the faceoff, and from there they were kind of, they could never quite get settled. Trocheck, I'm looking at the faceoff percentage, 50%, which is down for him. It just seems like his faceoff efficiency hasn't been quite as good. Now, again, he's been arguably, as far as skaters, you could argue he's been the team's MVP through 2 series, but just something I've noticed as far as the faceoffs for Trocheck. But yeah, we leave the first period with Carolina up 3-1. And in some ways you could say that it was deserved. In some ways you could say the Rangers offensively, they could have had more than 1 goal. So second period, a much better one from the Rangers on both sides of the ice. I thought that they, cleaned things up and they were rewarded for it. Second period, at 6:06, Zibanejad is called for holding the stick of Andrei Svechnikov. The Rangers killed that one off. So at that point, Carolina's 0 for 16 in the series on the power play. And then eventually at 12:43, the fourth line scores a goal. So you had the third line earlier, now the fourth line. Barclay Goodrow, his second goal of the playoffs from Schneider and Vesey. So a bad job by Freddie Anderson and also Tony DeAngelo, where Anderson is kind of unable a couple of times to kind of either, in the first case, kind of get the puck behind the net, and then in the second case, he's unable to control a rebound, an easy one. And then after that, DeAngelo kind of panics and puts it out towards the point, or at least puts it out towards the boards, and Vesey gets it, gives it back to Schneider. Schneider takes the wrist shot, and it's tipped up high by Goodrow. I will say this about Goodrow, and since he's been a Ranger, he's pretty good at deflecting those pucks, and it goes past Anderson. So again, sloppy a bit by the Hurricane goaltender and as well DeAngelo, and the Rangers take advantage of it. So bottom 6 offensive production, and they were getting that in this game. I also want to say within the second period, Alexis Lafreniere had so many chances. Now, he'll eventually score, but Lafreniere, even though his line was not really all that good in this game, because they weren't, he was dynamic. I mean, Lafreniere is getting better. And so I guess we'll, before we get into the Lafreniere goal, at 19:46 to the second, matching minors to Vinny Trocheck and Brent Burns. So 4-on-4 to start the third. And soon after the 4-on-4 ends, the Rangers tie it up. So they, come back from that 2-goal deficit. It's what they do. And that's the thing that you got to be impressed with is, look, the Rangers, they're up 3-0 in the series. They're down by 2 goals. They stuck with it. And Lafreniere scores his 4th goal of the season from Zibanejad and Trouba. And so I guess with that Zibanejad point, his streak continues as far as he has had at least a point, I believe, in all 8 games of the playoffs. So I hadn't even thought about that until just now. But Lafreniere now has 4 goals in 3 games. He's got 10 points in 8 games of the playoffs, and most of this production, if not all of it, is at even strength. I mean, Lafreniere is just the confidence is growing and growing. So what happens here is Lafreniere gets the puck and very slyly, he tricked Freddie Anderson a little bit. He didn't expect it. Lafreniere goes for the backhand bank off of Anderson, and it goes in. Now, Anderson's got to do a better job of holding the crease, being firm, and Lafreniere found a little hole and banks it in off of Anderson and in. So at that point, another big goal for Alexi Lafreniere ties it up at 3. And you're feeling pretty good at this point. It's like, all right, tie it up. Carolina crowd is quiet. You can hear the Ranger crowd. And as the period's going on, again, I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's like, look, Rangers have a good chance here. I mean, and it was close to going to overtime. And, there wasn't a whole lot of offensive chances in the third, and that's shown in the shots on goal, 8-5 Carolina. So it's not as if the Rangers were necessarily exploding with high danger chances, but in the third, late, Ryan Lindgren fucks up. And I don't want to come down too hard on Lindgren because I'll always say it, he's a heart and soul guy for this Ranger team. He really, really is. Has been since he's become a Ranger. And for that, deserves so much credit. He plays hurt. He's not afraid to block a shot. All of that. But look, he is fortunate that Adam Fox is his defensive partner. And with Fox, I personally thought, and I've seen mixed reviews, I thought Fox looked good. I think that he is looking better because I was concerned in this series, like he's dealing with something, and he might be. But I thought that Fox has been showing some more offensive creativity. I like what I'm seeing there. Now, could my mind change like next game? Maybe, but I personally think Fox has been pretty good. I thought he was one of the Rangers' better players tonight. But for Ryan Lindgren, look, it's as much as they both complement each other. I have to admit that for Ryan Lindgren, I don't know. He is a guy that I would say is good to have on it. Like, he is a winning type player. His style of play, even though he's not the biggest guy, is is beneficial for the playoffs. I guess the point I'm trying to make is the role maybe is a little bigger than it ideally would be. That's all. He does log a lot of important minutes, and I don't know if the skill level necessarily matches up to it. And look, part of this take is because of the big goal that was allowed. So there is some emotion involved in that, but I think I'm being fairly measured as far as it is. Like, for example, like for Trouba, to me, those concerns are way, way larger and way more of a problem than Lindgren's, just so we're clear. But what happens is Lindgren is unable to corral a puck. It was a pretty simple type play that should not have led to what it did. He loses control of it, and he eventually has to take down Jordan Martinook. Now, I know they weren't calling much all game, but look, like when it happened, I'm thinking like they might call this, and sure enough, they do. So Carolina gets that power play, and my thought was earlier in the game, I said, unfortunately, I feel like Carolina is gonna break this drought in a big moment, because not to say it wouldn't have been kind of big, but when it was 3-1, I was saying, all right, if they're gonna break it, part of me thought, and I think I might have even said this out loud, was, if they're gonna break it, now wouldn't be a bad time to do it. But of course they do it later, and it's the former Ranger Brady Skjei. His first goal of the playoffs from Teravainen and Svechnikov. And it was a shot by Skjei from the point that, look, Seth Jarvis was kind of in front and tried to tip it in. And maybe that threw Igor off. But that's what I thought initially. I thought it was a Jarvis goal, but it was actually Skjei. So Brady Skjei gets the goal. Again, for Shesterkin, I think he'd probably be upset about that one. And look, Igor made a lot of key saves too. When the Rangers were down by 2 in the second period, Igor really kept it at bay. So it's not like this was a bad game from Shesterkin. But obviously, we hold him to a very high standard. He's been very good. And, it was a little bit of a surprise seeing that it wasn't deflected in. But there was a little bit going on up, near him. And so that makes it 4-3. Then the Rangers do pull the goalie 6-on-5. They did have some decent zone time, some chances, but nothing that was that great. And Carolina wins the game 4-3. So Carolina, who had lost so many, like their last 8 playoff losses were all by 1 goal, they win this one 4-3. That's the way it goes. Like sometimes the bounces don't go your way. The Rangers kind of shot themselves in the foot early, and they weren't really able. It did cost them in the end. It did. And look, you're up 3-1, going back to MSG Monday night, still feeling good about this. If they lose game 5, then for me, the mindset changes a little bit at that point. But right now, not overly concerned. Greedy, in terms of being greedy, of course, would have loved to have gotten the sweep. But the goal going to Carolina was getting the split. That is what they've done. And being up 3-1, going home, where the Rangers have played really well at MSG. I would say in these playoffs, they've played better at home than on the road. And yeah, I think that they'll be ready to go. And look, chances are it's going to be another close game because that's what it is between the Rangers and Hurricanes. But I think that they know what they have to do. Even in this game, I thought there was a lot of positives from the Rangers. So let's see what happens. But yeah, Rangers unable to get the sweep. Unfortunately, their 7-game winning streak in the playoffs is over. This is their first loss in about a month overall. I think their last loss was to the Philadelphia Flyers in the regular season, that third to last game. So yeah, we'll see what happens at MSG. They'll be going home with the 3-1 series lead, looking to close out the Carolina Hurricanes once again.